Coogs House. The Houston Cougars knock off the Toledo Rockets 78-49. And I'm not sure they played their best game.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougars Daily Podcast, all about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. Appreciate you making us your first listen each and every day. I guess in this case, if you listen to us live and a post-game reaction, it might be your last listen of the day. Maybe you're catching us early on Thursday morning as you're on your way to work. Either way, appreciate you checking in on Locked On Cougs. Today's show is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. Yes, trust me. We'll talk more about that later, but a lot of excitement in that this weekend. But today, the big deal here is Houston knocks off Toledo without even necessarily needing their A game, 78-49. Tell me in the comments down below if you want to get in on the conversation what you thought about this game. I want to spend some time just, talking about what comes next, where to go from here. There were a couple of injuries that I think weren't such a big deal, but something to keep an eye on. I want to talk some about what we might have learned in this game. We had questions going into it about certain things. Did we answer any of those questions or anything like that? But first and foremost, my reaction to this game is that I think they've got two NBA caliber basketball players on this team, and I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know how to best utilize them at the same time. I got an idea here in a second, but both Jojo Tugler and Terrance Arceneaux looked really, really impressive in this one. Now, I should probably point out that Cedric played a lot of minutes. Backups played a lot of minutes. This was a game that guys had to play a lot of minutes because of foul trouble. But Terrance Arceneaux played 27 minutes, the highest he's had this season. We were asking going into this game, one of the questions we had answered was when we're going to start to see Terrance break through that 22-minute threshold. Looks like Wednesday night was the first night. He had 16 points, a team high 9 rebounds. Actually, the team high in points as well, I should point out, was 7 of 12 from the field. And I think what was most impressive about Terrance was he led the team in points and rebounds, and there was never a moment where I felt like Terrance is being selfish. He feels like it's got the hot hand. He's forcing it here. The game flowed through him like that. Never got out of pace, never got rushed, never got put in a bad spot. Terrance just did Terrance Arceneaux things. Jojo Tugler, who did come off the bench at different points this year, started again. I think this is his third or fourth game in a row starting since being moved back into the starting lineup. He had 13 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 blocks, an assist, kind of stuffed the stat sheet in that way. But I would point out with foul trouble in the first half, Tugler played just 16 minutes on the night. So his minutes were fairly impactful. And in reacting to this game, I feel like they kind of got forced into something. We'll talk about Juwan Roberts and the injury potential later because I don't think it's super pressing. I don't think it sounds like it was all that bad of an injury. But I do think that the Juwan Roberts injury plus some, plus some big people in foul trouble led to kind of unlocking a lineup almost on accident, and that was Jojo Tugler and 4 guards. Terrance Arceneaux being one of those guards offers a lot of positional versatility, but I'm talking about one was Malik Wilson, LJ Cryer, Milos Uzan, and Terrance Arceneaux surrounded with Jojo Tugler as the lone big guy. That lineup in this game is what I'm reacting to the most because I feel like that lineup had a lot of optionality in it. It was a lineup that we got kind of forced into seeing, but had a lot of fun watching and seeing. They saw Javier Francis in that group too. I don't think he quite fitted as well. But with that group, you had the 4 guards. Terrance can bring it up. Miles can bring it up. LJ can push the ball. And frankly, Malik Wilson might be the fastest player in the bunch as far as pushing the ball in transition goes. So constant rim pressure in that way. Terrance, great rebounder. For a guard, Milos is a great rebounder. Obviously, Jojo Tugler as well. So you had a lot of guys on the floor that could help rebound that. You don't have to draw stuff up in this group offensively for Jojo Tugler. He just kind of gets the ball and does his thing, and so like he gets offensive rebounds, putbacks, hustle play kind of points. So you don't have to worry about that as much as like your guards can constantly drive and kick and drive and kick and drive and kick and kind of keep the motion offense, but not necessarily like a stringent, strict rules of motion offense. It can all flow. It's really pretty basketball. And again, they kind of just fell into it. And it was really pretty basketball on a night that Houston shot the ball really poorly from behind the arc. LJ Cryer was 0 of 6 from behind the arc. And then Milos Uzan's on the lineup in this one, like I'm talking about. And he had just 1 of 7 from behind the arc. And then not that Malik Wilson's like known for being a 3-point shooter, but he made none of his one attempt. And I feel like as I'm going through this, right, what's impressive in that is this guard lineup would only look better. Like that's the worst the guard lineup is going to look with 4 guards and Jojo Tugler. Again, Terrance Arceneaux offers the versatility. He can cover other teams' power forwards. He can get the rebounds and be your power forward when you need him to. And him getting 27 minutes opened this up in a lot of ways. But if this lineup looked that good and efficient offensively without LJ Cryer hitting threes, with frankly Emmanuel Sharp in and out of the lineup, and he was 1 for 6 from 3 himself, this lineup when like one of those two guys, God forbid both, are like hot from behind the arc. I mean, what's the defense? Like, what can a defense do? The speed, the pace, it just flowed. And again, it's hard for a defense set up to stop something when the offense is just reacting because of the way the thing was flowing through the 4-out motion. Really, really impressed by that. And it didn't take a whole lot of orchestrating of sets or anything to get things done. They, had drag screens and stuff like that across to make sure like they were in spots, but it wasn't like a Princeton style motion offense or anything like that. It was really, really pretty basketball. I also think one thing I liked about this game was we saw like Malik Wilson played 27 minutes, and he played minutes that were not as the backup point guard. I think Malik brings a lot of things to this team. I'm excited to see him play well. He had like 1 or 2 bad passes, at least one of which was a turnover that jumps out of me off the top of my head in the first few minutes he was in the game. And he responded by having like a tremendous block, a blow by a guy to the basket. I mean, just he had big moments after that where like he rose above having made mistakes in ways that I don't know that he always did earlier this season. A lot of pressure on that guy's backup point guard in this offense, especially with like Milos having fouled out of a couple big moments. The fouls were an interesting one in this game. I at first, the first half, Houston shot, I believe it was 18 free throws in the first half. I don't remember exactly how many Toledo shot, but it was a lot as well. A lot of fouls called in the first half, like 16 in the first 14 minutes, kind of a lot of fouls called in this game. And then the second half, it was like the refs wanted to go home. They like swallowed the whistle and let them play by throwing all over the floor. It looked like a whole different crew was out there. And to Houston's credit, now admittedly, I don't know how they would have played had the tight whistle gone the whole game. But to Houston's credit, they found ways to play through whatever kind of game was being called. Obviously, Toledo is not Auburn or Alabama, and I don't mean to disrespect them as an opponent, but it is different. Right. But they also had to deal with the tight whistle. So theoretically, so would the Auburn or Alabama or whomever. Right. I also think as far as Houston's defensive efforts go, we mentioned a lot going into the game about how Sonny Wilson is a really, really strong offensive player. Houston held him to 3 points, 1 of 8 from the field. He had a few rebounds. He did have 5 rebounds, but he had just 1 assist and 2 turnovers. Again, Sonny Wilson led them in assists and points and had the lowest turnovers of any starter on their team. Houston flipped the script 180 on all of that for Sonny. It's what Houston does. I shouldn't be that surprised, but I don't ever want to go just past that without just like appreciating how tremendous that is for this Houston Cougar team, right? I mean, Sampson's done it for 11 years now. It shouldn't feel new, but you don't ever just like get used to it and stop appreciating those kinds of moments. I'll let your comments fly in. I want to hear what you had to say in your reaction to this game as well. But as I mentioned, today's show is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. It's that time of year. The College Football Playoff is back, and with a newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bring you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins on December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 o'clock Eastern time. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Parker Ainsworth hosts the Locked On Coogs here, breaking down a little, reacting to Houston's big win over Toledo, 78-49. And what's impressive about this one to me is that I'm not sure Houston quite played their best basketball, did not shoot the ball very well, even though they played in the Fertitta Center. Houston, I guess their field goal percentage was 44.8%, but that was heavily brought down by the fact that they were 4 of 24 from three. They were, 26 for 43, well over 50% from the field. I think it's actually over 60% from the field. Teach history, not math, but I think they were over 60% from the field aside from that, and actually got to the foul line. And I mentioned shot a total of 19 free throws, 18 in the first half, or 14 of 19, which is good for this group, especially with how many bigs they sent to the line. I came to this game with a handful of questions on the Houston Cougars, and I felt like they answered some. I'm still not quite sure on others. And one question I had to answer was that they can win a game without shooting well, and they found ways to get to the rim, right? Even Emmanuel Sharp, LJ Cryer, Malik Wilson, those guys, once they realized the three-point baskets were not falling, they found different ways to weave, duck, and dive into the basket. Cryer ultimately was 1 of 8 from the field, not his best scoring night, but he found other ways to impact the game. 4 rebounds, a couple of assists, dove on the floor once. I mean, it was really getting after it in a way that I don't think that we necessarily anticipated him when he transferred in, right? He managed to be an impactful player on the floor. And frankly, just the fact that he can heat up from 3, his presence kind of helped impact the offense in that way as well. Emmanuel Sharp got into the lane, was 3 of 4 on 2-point field goals, which I think is important considering he was 1 of 6 on 3-point field goals, right? He also got the foul line for 4 free throws, 4 from the foul line. Good on him for finding other ways to score and not just be a catch and shoot kind of guy. Freshman Emmanuel, catch and shoot kind of guy. Sophomore Emmanuel, mostly catch and shoot with the occasional pump fake and drive. Junior Emmanuel is going to be a leader on this team, and I think he will continue to be. He's going to have to find other ways to impact the offense and score the basketball. As far as finding ways to score when they're not shooting very well, Terrance shot the ball extremely well, but he didn't rely on the outside jump shot to do it. He got to the rim a lot, got to his spots, hit one incredible. It was like a half spin into a fadeaway on the short corner on the left side of the basket. Really, really pretty move out of Terrance there. Malik, again, I mentioned 4 of 7 from the field. Good day for him as well. And so, I think that all of those things, playing through the foul count, etc., showed me that they can find ways to win even when they're not shooting well. They also found ways to create offense even when they had to adjust their lineups to injuries and foul trouble. We've seen them have trouble when Milos fouls out of games earlier this year. Milos only had 1 foul in this game, but they did find success in lineups without him on the floor. Leads me to my second thing that I'm not sure we figured out. One of my other questions I had going into this game was about what's going to happen with this backup point guard spot, right? Now, Houston's 3 losses are all to good teams. San Diego State's going to end up being pretty high. I feel like you're going to end up seeing, both Auburn and Alabama take turns in the top 5, if not spend a lot of the season in the top 5. And I feel like those are understandable when you don't have your starting point guard. However, I think the more alarming thing was how slowed down the Houston offense got without their starting point guard and what's going to happen for the backup. Malik Wilson has guarded other point guards very well and has earned it on the defense side of the ball. I just don't feel like thus far we've got the offensive half of the floor, I don't feel like we've got a true backup point guard. And I frankly felt like the best offense flowed through Terrance, not necessarily always on him scoring, and it was frankly a lot more like hockey assisting and penetrating and kicking. But I think Terrance offered a lot in that way. Um, I feel like, though, the truth is that we're still kind of finding that answer. I mean, Milos played 35 minutes, which frankly I didn't really put together until the stats popped up. I didn't feel like he played 35 minutes. He just shot the ball. What is that? 13 times, which I think feels more like he played 25 minutes. But anyway, 35 minutes for Milos. We're still figuring out what's going to happen when he's not in the game. 35 minutes and a 30-point win does not feel like we've answered what happens to him off the floor. I wonder if we see more of against Texas A&M Corpus Christi over the weekend or not. Or, frankly, last year's team got to be the number one team in the country without really having a true option at the backup point guard spot. I mean, LJ is a scorer and he can cover other teams' point guards. It's not a terrible option. I wonder again if they look somewhere else for it. But we'll see. A lot of people want it to be Mercy. Another question I had, this is my question segment, I guess, kind of sort of. Coming into the game was, what's Mercy Miller's role going to develop into? We've seen a lot of freshmen that have earned minutes under Kelvin Sampson kind of have a rough November, December, and really kind of break out in January, February, right? Last year, Jojo Tugler had an excellent Big 12 season before his injury, right? Emmanuel Sharp's freshman year, he had an excellent run through the conference. Once they got into American Athletic Conference play, you've seen this happen. Sasser, his friend, these guys have had their first year in the program. They kind of ease into things and kind of get coached a lot in practice, things like that, and in between games in November and December, and then kind of blossom in January, February. What's it going to look like from Mercy? I still think he does some really hard things very, very well. The way he, frankly, just weaves through traffic with the ball as a big guard that he is, looks very fluid and natural. He's not afraid to shoot. He catches and shoots 3-point shots pretty in rhythm. He was 1 or 2 from behind the arc in this game. But then there are also some things that, like, I guess are kind of high level college basketball things. So I don't mean to say like he should have them down pat, but that he still does have trouble with. There are a couple different defensive rotations he was slow to. One that looked like he got kind of lost, and he played just 12 minutes. And then there's a couple times too where, like, I think the speed, even though Toledo's not a great team, they're 6-5 now. I guess they were 6-4 going into the game. Toledo is extremely fast and has a bunch of 6'4" to 6'7" guys they kind of rotate through. I think it felt like there were times that the speed kind of got to Mercy when he had the ball or was involved in the offense, right? And so those things he'll continue to work through. And I understand there are people that really want to see Mercy work through them in games. I think you got to remember to trust the staff. They've done this a lot with a lot of different guards as far as bringing him along at practice, film, etc., get him ready to play the, I don't know, it's Oklahoma State at the end of the month, right? Or whoever it is in the conference when they really need him. Question in the chat here is, didn't see the game. Why do you think the 3-point percentage was so low in this game? What happened with Cryer? Honestly, I didn't think the looks were terrible. I don't even necessarily think that Toledo was applying a ton of great 3-point pressure. I do think that the game felt like at a fast pace. I'll be interested to see what the analytical data comes out with that in this one in the morning. So I wonder if there was some frenetic aspect to the 3-point percentage. I really think, though, that there are just some nights where you don't shoot the ball particularly well. And ultimately, what ended up happening for Houston is they kind of let 3 guys keep shooting and everyone else stopped. And it wasn't Cryer, Sharp, or Uzan's night from behind the arc. Between those 3 guys, you were 2 of 19 from outside. And everyone else is like, I'm not shooting threes. I'm going to the basket, right? There wasn't a whole lot of rim protection from Toledo. Again, they scored a lot of 6'7s across their back line, but they are just 6'7", and a lot of, frankly, rim pressure from Houston's offense led to a lot of points, right? 78 points. Now, I don't think anyone's upset about the 78 points unless you had Houston and the over, because I believe the over-under I saw was 30 or 30 and a half, and a banked in half court shot from Toledo made it 29. And if that's you that had the over on 30, I'm sorry. But whatever the case may be, on all of that, I feel like Houston found what worked, and it was getting to the basket off the bounce. And except for those three guys, I think they kind of abandoned the three just because it wasn't falling. Now, Houston's got another one this weekend. It's a much quicker turnaround. They went from last Tuesday to playing tonight, Wednesday. Now they're going to turn around and play on Saturday. This is more of a typical turnaround in the Big 12. You typically play like a Monday, Tuesday game and then lead into the weekend, or like a Thursday or a Saturday even, and then a big Monday because it's a TV kind of thing or whatever, right? So you get the TV money and all of that. This feels more like that kind of a turnaround for what it's worth. In KenPom, their opponent this weekend, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, is ranked higher than Toledo, and they might be without one or two very important Cougars. And I want to talk about how this game leads into that one in 1 second. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets in the NFL all in one place. You get the hunch in the middle of a game, check the latest stats, you live play-by-play, and so much more all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com. Join today. Get started with $150 back in bonus bets. Your first $5 bet hits. It's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment worth. FanDuel, official sports partner of the NFL. We are also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money on sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money on sports action. Over 10 million members, and just got to sign up today. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in about like 15 minutes. It's not that crazy. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions. They can lead up to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts like player projections to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. This week, Prize Picks, I'm looking for in football. I'm still riding Saquon Barkley. I'm riding him high all the way throughout the season, always hitting more on Saquon. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Parker Rangers, the Locked On Cougs, are breaking down Houston's 78-49 win over the Toledo Rockets and kind of looking at what goes into the next one, right? Houston plays Texas A&M Corpus Christi this weekend. A&M Corpus Christi is ranked a solid 50 spots ahead of Toledo and KenPom. I'd imagine, frankly, while it's Saturday, December 21st, and people be out of school for winter holidays or whatever, you might actually have some people that can make the trek up and over. Texas A&M Corpus Christi typically has a few people from the greater Houston area on the roster. Got to anticipate them having family and friends and stuff like there as well. So I say all that to say, right, that the Saturday's game is probably not like a game that I feel questions about, but you're going to see a little bit different look. And people aren't necessarily worried about it this weekend, but Houston moving forward did take a couple injuries in this game. Ramon Walker suffered an injury that we found out about before the game. I'm crediting Jose Duarte because he was the first guy I saw tweet it. I guess I should probably make sure that is the case. Sounds like he injured his hand in practice. He was in normal Houston Cougars street clothes on the sideline today. Didn't hear anything about severity yet, but sounded like a hand injury and was out for the game. If he was out tonight and didn't even suit up, I don't know how much I'd rely on him being back by Saturday. Manuel Sharp was on and off the floor, got taken back to the locker room 2 different times with various injuries, beaten, battered, bruised. Emmanuel's a tough kid. I don't necessarily think they're going to keep him out this weekend, but obviously he took a couple big blows on Wednesday night. The big one is big fella Jawan Roberts. Sounds like he might have injured a foot or a tendon in his foot. It sounds like, and I feel pretty strong. Oh, seeing now come through that looks like Ramon Walker is going to have surgery on his hand. It's going to miss 4 to 5 weeks. So that's how that goes. But Jawan Roberts, it's looking like it was a tendon in his foot. And so they kept him out of the second half of this one. He was still up on his feet cheering, and Kelvin Sampson said after the game that if it were a more close game, serious game, difficult game, etc., if things were not going Houston's way, they probably would have found some way to get him in the game, but those were not the case, so they got him some rest. I wonder if they don't start him this weekend or something like that to kind of see if they need him or not. Jawan Roberts is a big heartbeat kind of culture leader on this team, but I do think they can find ways to piecemeal some of the production aspects against some of these non-conference opponents they got. Oklahoma State at the end of the month is not going to be easy, and so you got to kind of make sure you have all your things ready for that one. Now, one question I think people said that Mr. Big Texco here also says is that we need to see a little bit more on Milos Uzan. He follows up with needs to be more aggressive in attack. Still looks timid and not coming easy for him. I think it's interesting because Milos is not the scorer, obviously, that Jamal was last year. And there was definitely times last year where the Houston offense was stalled out and Jamal just said, I'm just going to go score a basket here then, fellas. And I don't think Milos quite has that gear. I just don't think he's that kind of a scorer. So I don't mean to necessarily say that it'll never happen for him, but I'm certainly not banking on waiting for Milos to have the 29-point outing against Texas that saves the day like Jamal Shed did, right? Or anything like that. I think that truthfully it's going to have to come in other kinds of ways. And I, in a scoring sense, would be more worried if LJ Cryer were to continue these bad shooting nights. Now, he was 1 for 8, 0 for 6 from 3. Got to think progression to the mean happens the same way that regression to the mean is. And that means he'll shoot 6 of 6 on Saturday or something, right? Just to kind of even things out. And he had the 3 straight 20-point games earlier this season, and he has been a kind of someone to fall back on for the Houston Cougar offense. With him not being there, honestly, if Arceneaux is going to play 27 minutes a game, I wonder if it's him, if Tugler is that efficient with his minutes and not in first half foul trouble. Does he play 24 minutes and get closer to 20 points himself? Because it's kind of what his pacing would have been had things continued. Francis, I thought, he just had 3 points, 1 or 2 from the field, and got the free throw. But I thought his energy was going on the defensive side. Does that lead you to some offense? Maybe. Houston did, for what it's worth, have 5 guys in double figures in this game. I know Toledo is not the defensive juggernaut that Houston will see in some different Big 12 opponents. I mean, Iowa State's defense is tremendous, right? I get all that. But 5 guys in double figures in a college basketball game that we're sitting here talking about the offense not being strong is pretty good, right? Malik Wilson got 10. Terrance Arceneaux got 16. I've said that. Tugler got his 13. Uzan finished with 10. And Emmanuel Sharp got 13. Now, I think the deal is that they all got really good looks. And any one of those guys, maybe save for Terrance, he shot the ball over 50%. But any one of those guys you think could have gotten 20, right? And so I think that's where things fall short. So Terrance is doing Terrance things. Love Terrance. I wonder if there's also something to be said about finding Emmanuel Sharp and some more, isolation type action. He's an awkward matchup for the guard. He's a big, strong guy. And so we'll see where they do that this weekend. I will say if Houston does not have Jawan Roberts this weekend, I lean into starting that 4-guard lineup. I opened the show by talking about, I think, putting Arceneaux at the 4. You keep Uzan, you keep Sharp, you keep Cryer out there with them. I mean, Uzan's got some length, Sharp's got some strength to him. You got all that out there, and then the versatility of Arceneaux. I think that lineup is, I think that's pretty strong. And so, if you really don't have Roberts this weekend, and again, and the lead assistant on a high school basketball team here in North Texas. Like, it's not like I understand everything the same degree that the Sampson and company do. I think I'd probably sit Roberts this weekend, the most I could anyway. Maybe start him, play a few minutes, get the game going again, set him down for the rest of it. But I would try to lean and see, like, what can we get out of that 4-guard lineup? What can we look about? Because truthfully, then if you set that up, then other teams have to get ready for it too, right? If you're Oklahoma State looking to play Houston on the 30th, giving them one more thing to prepare for is kind of a good thing for Houston. It doesn't cost you anything as far as your own preparation goes and all that. Now, we will preview an episode Friday, the Texas A&M Corpus Christi game over the weekend, talk a little bit about what they've got going and all of that. And we'll look some as well at more transfer portal things, the Houston Cougars. I'm looking to get some guys that know more about the Austin Armstrong, Florida defensive coordinator hire. Kind of tell me more what to expect on that. I've watched some Florida video at this point, but I'm getting some more intel there. I'm also hearing from people on campus in the program about who is and isn't visiting and how those are and aren't going. So I'm getting stuff ready to be ready to talk about those as they hit. And if those kids commit, really hope a couple of these defensive guys do in the next couple of days that have been here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend. Now they have a defense coordinator to play for. Going to get all that out too. Lots of stuff going on here at Locked on Coogs this December. Who said you had to be playing football games, be doing something this time of year? Breaking it down each and every day here at Locked on Coogs. Locked on Coogs is primary Locked on podcast network. It means your team every day. Thank you for tuning in with us live tonight. If you're here, if not, hit the bell and subscribe, then hit the bell so you know we're live. Locked on Coogs, primary Locked on podcast. I think I said that twice, but I'm so proud of it. Go Coogs.